Thank you very much, Rainer. Some of you have been already participating in the call on shaping the main topic 1, which is impact of the war. And the second call today is the main topic 3, at the moment very generally named with digital platforms. That's a very broad topic, and we have already tried to define some of the subtopics underneath 1, 2, 3, under risk, resilience, and hope, which are our focus areas. And during the public planning meeting that we had earlier this year, it was suggested, in order to avoid overlaps between several subtopics, but also in between the main topics, that we all come together as a big group and define the subtopics, and then also keep the relation between the organizing teams with regular calls, so that we indeed have a good discussion with different people on different topics that build on each other. There are quite a lot of proposals assigned to the subtopic here, much more than, for instance, we had, if you would look at main topic 1, impact of the war, there are way less proposals assigned. But this is not a surprise, because digital platforms are on ours and others' agendas for quite a while, and a lot of work from the various institutions has already gone into this. So we have to be very clear in what are the actual and most pressing topics that we would like to discuss this year. At the moment, we have summarized some keywords that we believe could go under risk, which is mental health, content issues, iteration of privacy and security, and metaverse is mentioned here as a keyword. Then, of course, we would like to discuss the European legislative regulatory responses and platform as a critical infrastructure for a democratic discourse. In our call earlier today, we could identify already that platforms will also play a role into subtopic 1, impact of the war, and here also in particular under the aspect of hope. So we might also have a close look on to which extent there might be overlaps here. So as I said, we would really, or this exercise that we are doing here for the first time in this in this matter, in this format, is really indeed to avoid overlaps. We have a number of subject matter experts here, which were helping us to draft that program, that consolidated program. And I would like to invite you now to speak up. What do you think on main topic 3, how it is clustered so far, if you have other ideas? And also please let us know, where do you think or where do you see yourself being member of an org team, and where do you would like to contribute, and with concretely which elements? So I open the floor and invite everyone to speak up or raise hand or make you visible otherwise. Floor is yours.
Hello everyone. When we have to publish a real plan of our presentators?
Hello Maya, good to hear you. Yes, we hear you.
So I would like to know when we have to publish about participants.
Publish participants, you mean participants of the org team, or what do you mean?
I mean mostly event participants, because I haven't published yet.
You mean the mailing lists where you can subscribe to the org teams?
No, I mean, why it's also, I mean participants of the event we have planned already. So about digital education.
The registration for EuroDIG is not yet open. That will open mid of March, and then you will also see the participants list on the website.
I'm also participant leader of the group, but I am looking for other for presenters who will present their programs. Is it okay?
Nadia, sorry, Maya, you are breaking up a little bit. You are hardly audible.
Oh, okay.
Can you maybe adjust your microphone a little bit? Or maybe even better, type the question in the chat, because I really think it's a matter of audio that I don't get your question. Okay, meanwhile, I invite others to speak up. Uri, you go first.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Uri for speaking. I'm sorry for my voice. I hope I'm still intelligible. What we have here, of course, digital platforms, social media, all things related to them were like grouped within this main topic area. And within it, subtopic 1 was meant to contain all the problems that were raised by the proposals. We have been talking about them for many EuroDIGs already, but there are always new ones. And including the internal problems of platforms like Twitter now, which is a new one. The second subtopic was meant as a factor of redeeming the problems or resilience, a review of the European legislation and new regulation on this topic. And there were many proposals on that. And the third one, it's about the fact that many governments seem to have outsourced their information activities to Twitter and other platforms. And now when Twitter is in a turbulence, what will governments do? We thought that this would be an interesting case to look at. And of course, there are other possibilities, Mastodon, and will governments migrate to some of these places, and what it is will be the reaction of the governments to the various turbulences that all of a sudden have cropped up. Thank you.
Thank you, Uri. Who else would like to speak up? That looks good. 3 hands. I go down the line. So Karen Mulberry is first, then Mary, and then Connor.
Yes, thank you very much. I know we have our 2 proposals in session, or subtopic 2. And frankly, what we were looking at was a dialogue on recent European regulation and the impacts. In particular, when you look at cybersecurity and all of the threats that are happening, not only today, but what could happen in the future, and how does it relate to current regulation, legislation, and the discussion among countries on framing all of that. What does it mean for the internet? what does it mean for how we should be prepared and in essence protect each other. So we're very interested in subtopic 2 and leading something along those lines. It might tie into what Yuri said in terms of the theme seems to be addressing some of the impacts and issues related to the ongoing war. But again, it's how do we protect ourselves from those threat actors? And does the legislation and regulation provide us with sufficient frameworks, or are there other paths and solutions and things we can put on the table?
Thank you very much, Karen. Next is Mary.
Thanks, Sandra, and hello, everyone. First of all, I wanted to say that I very much like the new framing or the format of risk, resilience, and hope. I think that gives an interesting flow to the conference and, based on each main topic area. But overall, I think my main comment was about subtopic 1, because it feels that we have quite a lot of big topic issues, topic areas there, each of which could be worth an hour or two of discussion. So I would like to call on anyone who is here who actually submitted a proposal that we clustered under subtopic 1 to comment if they have a preference around how we can narrow this down, or that could be something that is done later when the organizing teams are formed, because for instance, subtopic 2 can go in any direction, because there are a lot of legislative responses right now, but depending on how the group thinks about it, the framing of the topic right now will allow them to be more agile there. But for subtopic 1, I feel like we have too many issues that are relevant for digital platforms, but we cannot really have all of those under this subtopic within 1 hour. So if there's anyone here that submitted a topic for subtopic 1, I would love to hear from you.
Very good point, Mary. Thank you. Conor Corbett. You might be muted, Conor. We can't hear you.
Sorry, is this better?
Yes, that's better.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I think it was kind of building on Mary's point to a degree there, focusing on like subtopic 1. I'm speaking from Ofcom, the UK's telecommunications regulator. We didn't submit a proposal, but looking at subtopic 1 and the different sort of key issues that are grouped under there. And I see metaverse as well. And I'm just thinking on the topic of risk, is it sort of like, are we looking at this sort of emerging risk kind of in a horizon scanning sense, or is it more current? I mean, obviously we have very current risks and threats, as we mentioned in like the main topic 1 discussion just previously. But I'm wondering to what extent this one sort of looks to the future. And in that sense, it seems to me that metaverse seems to cover, and this is like, again, building maybe on what Mary said, though I'm not sure she might agree. Metaverse seems to cover, in a sense, quite a few of these key points, because it's obviously still a nascent, it's in the kind of a nascent concern for industry, and even the definition is quite vague. But you do have the likes of, ITUT have created their most recent focus group focusing on the metaverse. You've got the Commission is also researching and looking into this. And I think as a topic, it really does sort of sit at an intersection across a lot of kind of key issues. I mean, for example, like you've got like online safety, for example, you've got user-generated content and the sort of potential harms that might pose. Even in terms of the connectivity required for people to engage with the metaverse, you're looking at a need for networks that are giving you quite a low latency. So who knows? There could be a push towards, I suppose, the different kind of like internet standards almost that would underpin it and be necessary for it. And there's obviously political machinations at kind of that level as well. So yeah, I'm just wondering to what extent is metaverse a term or a kind of a focusing concept that we could kind of group a lot of these other issues under. Not sure if I I can see how maybe not everyone else would agree, but that was just kind of an initial thought that I was thinking of there. Yeah, that was my main input.
Mm. Yeah, indeed, Mary and Connor, you're absolutely right that at the moment under subtopic 1, this is very blurry and there is no real focus at the moment, and that in this short time we cannot discuss all of this. But that is why we have come together, consulting with you what you think, how all this should at the end come together, and what are the topics we should focusing on. And possibly not all of them will then at the end really play a role here, but of course everyone is invited to contribute to the team regardless if the proposal is considered or not. Connor, can I ask again if you from Ofcom side would have a focus where you could contribute in this regard? Is it security, privacy, content related issues, or what would that be? Do you have another keyword that you could bring in?
Well, I think like a lot of sort of regulators and institutes kind of in a similar position with the metaverse. We're kind of currently just approaching it from an internal strategic point of view. So we've been conducting some sort of research internally, and we're also engaging with our European international stakeholders, etc., to build our own knowledge there. But I think one of the emerging ones for us is within an online safety I think context, because again you're looking at the potential. We have in the UK, we've got the online safety bill, and it's likely that some elements of what people consider to be this kind of metaverse style platform will probably fall into the scope of the UK's online safety bill. I know that you've then got the Digital Services Act on the EU side, which the Commission has stated will be similar. So I think that's the emerging kind of position that we are kind of taking at the moment, that we might be able to contribute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to say something?
Hi, this is Karen McKay from IEEE. I'm so sorry, I'm having some issues with Zoom, so please excuse me. This is my internet or my platform. But anyway, just to add to the metaverse topic, I know at the IEEE there's a global effort underway on the metaverse with various initiatives, and one in particular is regarding looking at the safety and security of the metaverse when we think about the various technologies, augmented reality, virtual reality, etc., that will be there, and also looking at connectivity, interoperability, and also what we would call metaverse related human factors, and looking at those ethical guidelines. So just want to add that into the mix. If you need sort of a speaker or some insight or perspective on that side of the metaverse, we'd be happy to connect you to some of our experts.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, Karen, and also what was the other speaker from IEEE?
Her name is Karen as well. So
yeah, okay. Can I ask the two Karens if you would consider something like a metaverse really rightly placed under a focus area of risk? Is it that aspect like safety and these kind of things that you suggest to be discussed here?
I mean, we are, sort of looking at it through a cybersecurity lens as well. And then if we think about risk and safety, looking at those human factors, impact, ethical guidelines. So, I think that could work. I would, look to my colleague, Karen, to see, if she agrees with that or has a different perspective.
Thank you, Karen. You say, when you say IEEE and Karen, you get both of us. And I think, that's part of the emerging technology discussion when you look at cybersecurity and protections and what that all means in terms of human factors, applicability to the, to the network, and to the individuals. And metaverse and AI are all of the emerging technologies that are going to have a factor on how we move forward from today into the future. So defining what it means, and then how you build in the security and protections to minimize the risk, I think is important. And then it ties into how do you arm yourself to be resilient, which is the theme for this structure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying. Who else would like to speak? No one?
Hello.
Yes, Julia, please go ahead.
Yes, we made a proposal. I would like to refer in particular to the number 25, as we discussed in the previous session about the 26th. So I guess we will be focusing rather on this one. And in our proposal, we wanted to focus a bit on the victims. So what should be available to support those targeted and which should be the appropriate services online to provide the support to reach out to victims. I think we're well placed in subtopic 2 because we provide a great set of both legal and non-legal measures to be taken by states and other relevant key actors when it comes to victims, but also when it comes to well, in particular to hate speech online. And we are also drafting a study which is focusing on the support mechanisms and which are the promising programs, activities, and policies that exist in the 46 states taken under consideration. So I would like to ask also to the other participants whether they see an added value in addressing this specific aspect, and the organizers whether it is well fitting the subtopic 2. And in that case, we will be willing to, well, either focus on this subject, or of course also to readapt eventually to the new shape that would be agreed in here in this form.
So that was a question to everyone. What I see at the moment a little bit coming up also in relation to the call that we had just before, where we kind of moved away from the current subtopic 3 on hope towards regulatory. So I see a little bit of an overlap maybe, and those who participated in the first call might agree or disagree with me. This is really the case, but I think we should be very mindful that we don't speak about the role of international actors and possibly regulatory solutions on regulating platforms in the section of hope. I think this needs a closer look. And I'm not the expert here, so I really have to consult with our team of subject matter experts how we are going to frame this in order to avoid overlaps between main topic 1 and main topic 3. Maybe those who've been on the first call can speak on this a little bit, because I must say I'm a little bit unsure at the moment. Jon, please go ahead.
Well, of course, there's an overlap because we have actions in the context of the war that affect social media platforms, and here we discuss those social media platforms independent from the war. So how could we differentiate? We have discussed the term metaverse, and we might have maybe a bit more long-term perspective here that is not not referring to short-term measures that are being taken now. So maybe we could have a long-term perspective and even have a hope perspective. I'm not sure if we can build this, but when you look at PR statements regarding the metaverse, it will fix everything and we will have a nice shiny future with it. But maybe there is still some good to it that we could really mention, meaning that we can improve on digital interactions using the metaverse approach in a way that saves a lot of travel to the environment, and that we can see that on those aspects where Zoom meetings are not really sufficient to replace physical meetings, maybe we can advance in the metaverse, because then it's providing more contact, more space, more information exchange of subtle reactions, and this might actually give hope to a lot of applications that can be very sustainable, that can improve our life, that have their own risk as well, of course, as all new technology does. But we could focus on this aspect. Then it would be a completely different focus than the focus that we had in the main topic one. So if we go this path ahead, going on the technology side and seeing what this could bring, inviting people that can provide this positive outlook, of course, inviting critics that are skeptical about these promises as well. And then we could discuss it. If we only have the skeptics and they will say, well, this is just PR, I don't think we can fill a session with it. So we would have to have some people that give a positive outlook for new social interaction on digital platforms.
Mm-hmm. Since I hear everyone is kind of referring to metaverse, is that maybe something that we should focus on within main topic 3 at all, or should we really keep it broad on digital platforms? You mentioned at the beginning also the issue with Twitter and Mastodon and how governments reply or relate to that one. Is that maybe something where we should say, okay, in this session we only discuss the kind of a next big thing, which obviously is the metaverse? Are there any opinions on that one? Georgi Jokatsa?
Yes, thank you, Sandra. Just a quick comment on the last question with regard to metaverse, because just looking at the program and the flash session that we are, as Cybercrime Program Office of the Council of Europe, assigned to, which is civil society oversight of law enforcement agencies' work, which is true to the point that we raised, and we're really going to focus on this particular subject matter. Do you think that it would be then could be slotted under the metaverse sort of overall theme? Because I think that it would be at odds with the name of the session, and we may have to move it in the end because it's your choice, but it's still something that would probably go against what was suggested recently.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me a hint at the moment to which number you are referring? I know it was one of the numbers that was added after the public planning meeting because it was suggested there.
Yes, it's Flash 8, which is in this particular session. So
indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So Flash 8, that would be basically in parallel, but I understand that could be kind of be related to the topics of metaverse as well, right? Well, let me put it that way. It's, I mean, you might do a flash on this, which is a standalone thing, but if you think that whatever is the outcome of how we are going to shape main topic 3, you will be always invited to participate with the discussion that you might have in Flash 3 as well. Sorry, Flash 8 as well. So there is no either or, there is just an and. And even that proposal, which has no number because it was added later on, is not listed somewhere here, you would be really more than welcome to let us, I don't know, today, where do you think you could contribute, or then join the respective org team in this regard.
All right, clear. Thank you. So we will give it a thought and then we'll contact you in writing.
Okay.
For the org team. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Jörg, you raised your hand again, and then Karen Mulberry.
I'm muted, sorry. I think the topic of decentralized social networks like Mastodon is also a very interesting topic. Apart from the movement we have seen when Musk bought Twitter, we will have regulation on social media that will well, that comes into force or already came into force, so it will have an impact. And one way to avoid this regulation will be decentralized social networks, because they are not subject to this regulation. They're exempted from this regulation. So we might see a move of those people. We might see a reverse of the move. So people that came to Metaverse so Mastodon might go back, and those who did not want to go to Mastodon might go to Mastodon because the Digital Services Act is come into force. So we could have a discussion on the future of regulation on digital services regarding different types of services, regarding decentralized services, and how this could turn out, because there is you can using decentralized services, you can avoid the big platforms and you can avoid the regulator, and this will have an impact. And we could talk about this perspective as well. But I think having something which is a bit further out there than just the current developments might be a good point. And since it's the third topic, having the third topic looking a bit more in the future might be something that works well.
Okay, thank you. Karen, you go next.
Yes, thank you very much. This is Karen Mulberry with IEEE. In listening to the discussion, I think that maybe subtopic 2 could better be reformatted as emerging technology, because that would cover the metaverse and not necessarily going into debate on Twitter or any of the other social media platforms, calling them out by name, but talking about, emerging technology, which would incorporate AI, metaverse, and how you look at the European legislative platform or proposals out there. I'm trying to think on the fly here, because I think we need to tie in emerging technologies and regulation and legislation and what that all means. Because to me, coming up with means to protect yourself is very important. So looking at the cybersecurity approach to things is what we thought was very important for this kind of debate. How do you protect your infrastructure? How do you protect your people while you're protecting the infrastructure, especially from things that happen online that shouldn't? I mean, that ties into child online safety and a lot of the other European directives that are out there. I'm not sure we want to combine them under one topic, but I think having emerging technology and just having a technical discussion on what are the tools, what are the aspects, and what are directions you can take using the European legislative directives as the guide.
Okay, thank you very much. I could also hear that here are some overlaps to main topic 1, in particular in protecting people and having a resilient infrastructure. So we have to be mindful where we draw the line between the two topics.
Yes, and this would be purely more of a technical discussion not necessarily into the protecting yourself under warlike conditions and the environment that happens there.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Any other one who would like to speak? No one? Okay. I think what we will do next, we will first of all publish the recording of this call on our session pages on the related one, so that others who could not join it today can at least catch up. And then we will revisit that 2 topics or the 3 topics that we discussed today and tomorrow with the subject matter experts and incorporate the proposals that have been made here. We will then in the next step open the session pages as usual, where everyone can subscribe to the related org team. And throughout the course of the development of the session, we will offer regular calls like this one, where the org teams of the subtopics are exchanging, so that we indeed avoid the redundancy and that we discuss the same issue and that the topics are building on each other. So to put it short, there will be org teams for each subtopic, yes, but the org team for one main topic will also get a chance to discuss the overall thing in the manner that we did it today, in order to get an understanding where we would like to go. But I do think indeed we have to go back to the desk and revisit where to draw the line between the certain main and subtopics, in particular for 1 and 3 that we had today. Is there anything that any one of you would like to bring up, which has, yes, Karen and Uri?
Yes, thank you. Again, Karen Mulberry with IEEE. Just in listening to how we might better differentiate at least topic 1 and topic 3, I think topic 1 is focusing more on people. And while topic 3 seems to be more focused on technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be I think a good way to define the differences in approaches that you might want to take under those main topics.
Yes, that is indeed a good approach. I take note of that. And Uri, you have also raised your hand. You're muted.
You are muted.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think there is a danger of an overlap, because one is clearly and strictly about the impact of the war. The impact of the war we have in Ukraine going on right now, and how it spills over to various things. And here we're talking about the platforms. We have been, as I said, for many EuroDIGs, we have been lamenting the various problems of platforms and social media and so on and so forth. And to me, it looks like a good approach that we, instead of complaining about things that happened in the past and are still happening, take a look at the new technologies and their impact, and then talking about resilience, ask whether the European regulation and legislation that has been undertaken, whether that actually answers to these new things, including the federated or decentralized networks. So I think this would be a good scheme. And then on the subtopic 3, as I said, we have, for instance, there has been a suggestion in Finland that the government actually stops publishing in Twitter and starts this Fediverse. In the Fediverse, Mastodon or any other, where it actually can influence what's going on. So that this is like my take from this discussion, but obviously we need to discuss some more, and we also have to look at the original proposals which were made and whether this covers at least some of them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anyone else? Please just speak up or raise your hand.
I have to tell that if we would have a national network, also social network, it would be flooded by Russian trolls. That's the problem in Georgia, for example. So therefore, I don't know if decentralized social networks in countries such Georgia will be very good. Because it will be overflooded by Russian trolls, I know, and fake news is a big issue, we know. And this law, this new law about foreign agents are also against freedom we suppose. Therefore, I don't know if we would support a national social network in Georgia.
Thank you, Maya. I'm not so sure if we are really thinking about national social media networks. I think it was more of a decentralized approach in terms of the technical background that is decentralized.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? I see there are some comments in the chat by Mark, which also find support. Mark, I'm not ever, I cannot be on all lines. So if you would like to speak up, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll leave it in the chat.
Mark, it would also make sense to have it on the record because some people will only listen to it and the chat will not be published. So repeat your comments.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Mark, you have the floor, please.
With that very practical prompt from Rainer, and thank you also Sandra. Yes, well, I just wanted to make the point. I think that this whole area of digital platforms is fast moving, and there are new services coming through, and so I very much sympathize with Karen's point about reframing this as more generically about emerging technologies and how issues like public interest, child protection, or whatever that governments are grappling with need to engage in an effective way so that innovation is promoted, and innovation which will help ensure that platforms are safe and secure, more so than was envisaged in the early days of social media platforms. I think and there's a lot of experience, and I think the approach of governments, if I look at the UK, for example, is one to engage with the technical community to understand what's coming through, how things are changing, new digital technologies to create these platforms like Mastodon and so on. There's a more EuroDIG can help ensure that is a key message, that the innovation is important. Governments should not step into this in a clumsy, heavy-handed way. They should engage, and discussions at EuroDIG can help foster that kind of constructive approach so that the interests of governments in terms of protection, in terms of law enforcement and so on, are understood in that broader context. So that's what I was trying to convey really in those comments in the chat. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was helpful indeed. Okay, anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. I don't think we have to extend the call then, because if everything has been said, we will now go back to our desk, do our homework, and inform you if you have submitted something. You will be informed directly. If you have not submitted a proposal, then please follow our communication channels, which is the newsletter, or also LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, so that you be aware of the next steps in case you would like to contribute. I thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to shaping the agenda and building another good EuroDIG in Finland.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.